And one of the biggest problems that we have, or that the actives that are used to control blackgrass, of which propyzamide is the biggest challenge, but we talk about this as total pesticides, and total pesticides tend to be that, but all the basket of herbicides that are used to control blackgrass. Because propyzamide gets used the most, it's the most high profile, and we've had some specific challenges around propyzamide. The graph we've got here is slightly different to a normal graph that we would see, because you'll see the axis, the y-axis here doesn't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's an exponential graph. So each mark going up increases tenfold. So we go 0.1, 0 to 1, 1 to 10. So it expands a huge lot more than it would normally look like. Now, the challenge here was propyzamide we started seeing significantly long after the end of the period when we're allowed to use it. And we presented this data to the voluntary initiative, and they've been working with us to get a solution. The first challenge we have here is that we get a huge number of detections over that 0.1, and that 0.1 line is really important because that's the drinking water standard. That's the standard that we need to provide drinking water to our customers at. If the level is above that for any chemical, any pesticide, that water will have failed, and there are significant fines that come through there. So everything that we can do as a business to manage that water, to work with farmers to keep those levels below there is really good. And I think that's a critical thing for us, particularly when any pesticides that we detect in water are pesticides that washed off land. Nobody puts pesticides in water intentionally wanting to go away. So all of this here is lost investment. It's lost opportunity that wasn't doing its job on the land. You'll see we have a lot of detections below that 0.1 standard. The challenge is the number of ones above that 0.1. And of the samples over here, 161 of them, or 15% of them, are above that 0.1 standard. Some of them very, very high. So our 10s, remembering our standard 0.1, we've got 8s there, we've got 6s, we've got 5s, we've got 4s. The other challenge we had here was more about when we start detecting them. So we would expect to be seeing propyzamide in January. The problem came in the length and the duration of seeing propyzamide after January. Now, there are lots of different reasons, whether it be climate, whether it be cropping, crop cycles, and those sort of things. But it's not unexpected to see, well, not surprising to see the amount that we've been seeing for a huge length of time. But what we need to do is work with the agricultural industry to say, well, what is driving these factors here? What can we do to keep the pesticides on the land rather than having them washing off into the water? The biggest target we're trying to do is to get these ones that were after the 1st of February, but was also above 0.1. And the challenge is that we had about 10% of all the detections we had were over that 0.1 and after the application date. So lots of reason around it, but it's these sort of challenges that we're looking at as an opportunity to work with agriculture. And it is really important that we focus on the opportunities to work with agriculture rather than just talking about a problem and stepping away. This graph here complements what we're doing. It ties into a metaldehyde message, but it's why Anglian Water feel it's really important to work with farmers, and we can definitely see the benefits. This graph here looks simply at what are the levels we detected of metaldehyde and where do we actually get involved. So using metaldehyde data, the red bars are where we were working with farmers on a one-to-one basis or a small group basis. We were talking with farmers, we were doing trials, we were providing level of subsidies and engaging as much as we could. All of the rest of the blue lines were catchments, were rivers where we didn't engage. And in some of them, we were still able to detect levels that were below the drinking water standard. But in a lot of them, and particularly these are some of the bigger catchments, we didn't get anywhere close there. And as a business, we look and say, there's an opportunity there. We need to spread what we're doing beyond just small areas. We need to work into a wider area. We need to get more farmers involved. I do say that from my perspective, metaldehyde was a relatively simple challenge for us as a business because there was ferric phosphate as an alternative. We could incentivize its use rather than something else, rather than metaldehyde. The challenge going forward is that black rice is a far more complicated problem. We have a lot of different products that are used for it. There's a lot of different strategies for managing blackgrass. So the solutions that we can get to are going to be more complicated. And that's why we need to work with farmers. We need to have a broad base of what we're doing. We can't just pick one or two little areas. So this is a really important graph for me to decide, to help explain internally to the business and why it's important to work with agriculture.